The sonar lights flickered, then vanished completely, leaving the bridge in near darkness. Officers exchanged uneasy glances as the icy wind howled through the fjord gorges. Every creak of the hull amplified in the stillness. The radar screens had picked up a shape massive and silent moving beneath the water, faster than any known whale. Yet there was no surface disturbance, no splash, nothing. A petty officer muttered under his breath, "It's watching us." But the words hung in the air like smoke unanswered. The fjord around them seemed to tighten walls of rock rising like silent sentinels, and the water below darkened almost alive. Shadows danced along the steel hull cast by the moonlight breaking through jagged cliffs. Each instrument flickered uncertainly, sonar pulses returning garbled echoes, distorted signals that made seasoned sailors exchange uneasy nods. Something was down there. Something enormous. Something aware. Then came the first whisper of movement, an unnatural pressure beneath the keel. The bow lifted ever so slightly, as if the water itself had grown conscious. Sailors froze eyes wide, listening for sounds that seemed impossible. A low, resonant thrum vibrating through the steel deck, like a heartbeat, like the slow breathing of a giant creature beneath the depths. The night deepened fog curling along the cliffs, water dark and still yet alive with unseen motion. Every shadow seemed to stretch unnaturally, folding the fjord into a narrower, more threatening corridor. The men whispered among themselves, voices trembling, but no words could capture the dread settling over them. Instruments failed, compasses spun, sonar returned shapes that made no sense. The patrol had crossed into territory where the known and unknown collided. Then a sudden movement, something long and dark sweeping beneath the hull. A shadow passing with unnatural speed. The water boiling in silent waves. One sailor swore he glimpsed a colossal form, just a flicker under the moonlight. Yet the officer next to him claimed he saw nothing. Conflicting memories that would haunt them for years. The logs, careful and clinical, would only record temporary anomaly, but the men aboard knew they had glimpsed something older than maps, older than memory. A chill settled over the crew, an instinctive fear that clung to their bones. They remembered old tales whispered by the fishermen of the Deep Watcher, a guardian of the fjords. A shadow that had followed sailors for generations. Stories told in hushed voices, always ending with a warning. Some secrets of the deep should remain untouched. And here, in the frozen embrace of the fjord, those stories felt terrifyingly real. No one dared move for long moments. The only sound was the wind cutting through the cliffs and the subtle, almost imperceptible hum beneath the ship. A shadow of legend glimpsed for a fleeting moment. Questions left unanswered. Curiosity warring with fear. The officers knew this encounter would be etched in their minds forever. A haunting reminder that the fjords held guardians beyond comprehension, beyond explanation, and perhaps beyond time itself. It was early March 1987. The Norwegian Navy dispatched a squadron of patrol vessels into the twisting fjords of Lofoten, waters steeped in history, cold and unforgiving. The mission was routine: on paper chart navigable passages, monitor for any unusual activity, and conduct anti-submarine exercises. Yet as the ships entered the narrow corridors between towering cliffs, a sense of unease settled over the crew, a tension that no training could erase. Captain Larson, a veteran of the North Sea, stood at the bridge, eyes scanning the gray horizon. Seasoned hands gripped the railings, aware that these fjords had claimed men before. His officers, skilled and disciplined, moved with quiet efficiency. Yet even they could not mask the subtle apprehension that crept into every movement. The fjord walls rose sharply on either side, draped with frost and shadow, casting long, jagged reflections across the icy waters. The patrol consisted of 3 vessels, each equipped with sonar arrays, advanced radar, and communications tuned to detect the slightest anomaly beneath the waves. But on that morning, instruments began to behave strangely. Sonar blips returned distorted, irregular echoes. Signals appeared from impossible depths, and compasses occasionally wavered as though confused by some unseen force. Men exchanged glances, questions unspoken, instincts prickling like static on the skin. Local fishermen had long whispered of the fjord's secrets, tales of the deep watcher, a shadow that moved beneath the waves, ancient and patient. Stories passed down in hushed voices, always ending with a warning: some mysteries of the deep should never be disturbed. At first, the patrol dismissed these tales, yet as the fog thickened and visibility dropped, the legends felt less like folklore and more like an uneasy premonition. By mid-morning, the fjord narrowed. Mist curled around the cliffs, concealing depth and distance. Every movement of the vessels seemed amplified by the silence. The sonar detected something enormous, slow, deliberate, and unlike any known marine life. Crewmen leaned over the rails, eyes straining against the gray water hearts quickening. Some whispered that it felt as if the fjord itself were alive, observing, a presence waiting, always waiting. The wind cut through the corridors of rock with an eerie howl. Waves lapped at the hulls in an irregular rhythm, almost like a pulse. The crew began to notice subtle, inexplicable occurrences. Instruments flickering, faint vibrations running through the decks, small objects shifting without reason. Each anomaly was logged clinically, yet every man sensed something beyond explanation, something intelligent, something ancient. Captain Larson made repeated entries in the patrol log. Coordinates, environmental conditions, sonar readings, precise objective. Yet in his personal diary, he admitted, "Unease, no training nor instrument can measure what lies beneath these waters. Instinct whispers truths that science cannot touch." The crew, while disciplined, began to whisper among themselves, questions that went unanswered, stories from old fishing villages resurfacing, warnings long ignored. As the patrol pressed deeper into the fjord, the cliffs seemed to close in. Shadows stretched unnaturally across the water. Each sonar ping returned shapes too vast, too irregular. The men were aware that this was no ordinary mission. Every echo hinted at a presence silent yet deliberate, a watcher of the deep, something older than memory, older than recorded history, something that had waited centuries beneath the icy surface. By afternoon, a tense stillness fell over the squadron. Instruments returned to nominal readings, yet the crew felt the weight of the fjord pressing down, the kind of silence that fills the chest and slows the pulse. Every glance toward the dark water reminded them that whatever lurked beneath it was patient, observant, indifferent to human understanding, and perhaps it had always been there. The patrol logs from March 1987 provide a chilling record of what unfolded within the fjords. Sonar operators meticulously noted echoes that defied conventional explanation. Massive shapes moving with impossible speed and precision beneath the icy waters. No known whale or submarine could account for the readings. Instruments failed intermittently, returning distorted blips. Depth measurements fluctuated without reason. Official documents classified these events as transient anomalies, yet the crew knew something extraordinary was unfolding. Daily operational reports captured subtle hints of unease, vague mentions of pressure, anomalies, unexpected currents, and unidentified contacts peppered the otherwise clinical language. The officers trained to rely on data could not ignore the patterns emerging in the sonar logs. Several petty officers later admitted that the shapes they observed beneath the hull stretched hundreds of meters, moving silently, deliberate, intelligent, as if the fjord itself harbored a conscious presence. Mid-afternoon entries describe an incident that would haunt the men for years. A reconnaissance buoy deployed to measure depth vanished without a trace. Precise coordinates. Yet the device simply ceased to exist. No mechanical failure, no interference. Fate unknown, the report noted dryly. But the crew knew the words barely captured the dread that had gripped them. Naval intelligence files released decades later confirmed a history of anomalies in the Lofoten Fjords. Radar returns registering objects of unidentifiable size. Acoustic disturbances at frequencies outside normal parameters. Vessels reporting instrument malfunctions at recurring locations. Each case treated in isolation, yet collectively, they pointed to a persistent enigma lurking beneath the waters, a presence indifferent to human intrusion. Personal diaries reveal the human side of these events. Lieutenant Johansson wrote, "The echoes are alive. I cannot describe it yet. I feel eyes beneath the waves, waiting, observing." Another officer noted the instruments lie, but the water itself speaks, or conceals. We cannot trust either. Men trained in logic and procedure found themselves relying on instinct, unease becoming a companion as constant as their instruments. Contemporary accounts outside the Navy corroborate fragments of these mysteries. Archived newspapers mention strange waves tearing at fishing nets, shadow-like figures glimpsed under the fjord's surface, and small boats disappearing briefly from radar. Investigators struggled to reconcile objective technology with eyewitness accounts. The official records were precise but incomplete, gaps that fueled speculation, and a lingering dread in anyone who studied the fjord. Scientific teams attempted rational explanations. Theories ranged from deep-sea currents, rare geological formations, or sonar miscalibration. While some phenomena could be explained, many could not. The scale, speed, and behavior of detected shapes exceeded known marine biology. Equipment anomalies suggested that whatever moved in these waters interacted deliberately with instruments, or perhaps remained invisible to them. Several crew members later reported personal experiences not found in official logs. Fleeting shadows gliding beneath the hull, ripples moving against the current. Sonar blips appearing before any object entered their detection range. Fragmented subjective memories. Yet combined with official logs, a pattern emerged. The fjord was inhabited by something vast, deliberate, and unseen. By nightfall, the patrol's reports were filled with coordinates, anomalies, and environmental data. Meticulous, clinical. Yet these facts could not capture the fear that gripped the crew. The whispered warnings. The cold sensation of being watched. Instruments could measure depth, temperature, sonar, but could not measure dread, nor the centuries of local folklore hinting at a guardian of the fjords. The final logs from that day speak in cold, precise terms. All systems nominal. No contact detected post-1900 hours. Standard patrol concluded. Yet the men aboard knew better. The anomalies had not ceased. They had merely receded, leaving a shadow behind. A presence both documented and whispered of. Fact and myth intertwined. An enigma that would haunt anyone who dared venture into the fjords again. Long before the Norwegian Navy ever patrolled these fjords, the locals whispered of a presence that haunted the deep waters. Fishermen spoke of the deep watcher, a guardian of the fjords, a shadow that moved beneath the waves, invisible to the eye, yet unmistakably alive. They told of nets shredded without cause, of boats that vanished briefly in thick fog, and of eerie thumps against hulls in the dead of night. Stories passed quietly from father to son, always ending with a warning: never disturb the depths. Elders recounted tales of strange lights flickering beneath the surface, green and phosphorescent, like will-o'-the-wisps dancing on the water. Some claimed to see vast shapes curling in the darkness, larger than any whale gliding with intelligence, and always watching. The fjord, they said, was alive with memory, with spirits with the echoes of a time when humans did not command the sea. Children grew up hearing of Skuggafisk, the shadowfish, a creature said to drag the unwary into the icy depths. Parents warned them to stay close to shore, to never venture out alone. Many dismissed these stories as superstition, yet fishermen learned early that strange currents, sudden fogs, and disappearing buoys could mean more than coincidence. The folklore carried truth wrapped in myth, a survival instinct encoded in stories. Some accounts spoke of phantom sounds, long, low moans echoing through the fjords at night. Some sailors swore they heard rhythmic thumps along their hulls, as if some colossal creature traced their path silently. The stories blurred the line between legend and experience, every whisper of the past reinforcing the sense of a watcher patient and eternal. During the winter, when storms lashed the fjords, the tales took on a darker hue. Shadows would appear beneath ice-cold waters, shapes moving against the current. Some fishermen claimed to have glimpsed vast forms lifting out of the depths for a heartbeat, then vanishing again. The water returning to calm, leaving only uncertainty and dread. These were not modern inventions. Such accounts had persisted for generations, documented orally encoded in local memory. Legends also spoke of lost crews, men who vanished without trace, small vessels found adrift with no occupants, fishing gear torn and scattered. The pattern was eerily consistent with the anomalies recorded by the 1987 patrol. Coincidence, some would argue. Yet the fjord seemed to remember repeating its behavior across decades, across centuries, as if testing those who dared enter. Some stories connected the fjord to spirits of the past. Warriors of old drowned in battle said to protect the waters from intrusion. Ghostly shapes rising briefly seen from the shoreline, then disappearing as quickly as they appeared. Observers described feeling eyes upon them, a weight pressing from below. The sensation that the fjord itself was sentient, alive with intent. Maritime folklore also included warnings of hubris, tales of modern men armed with instruments and science entering the fjords, confident in technology, dismissive of myth. Many returned shaken, recounting shapes larger than their vessels, movements that defied logic, and a persistent feeling of being observed. The stories blended truth and legend, caution and experience, leaving a mark on anyone who listened. Some accounts told of interactions, fleeting glimpses of something beneath the waves, currents that shifted in unnatural patterns, sonar blips that anticipated movement. In some ways, the folklore mirrored the naval fact layer. The patterns, the vanishings, the echoes. It was as if the myths themselves had encoded empirical truths, warning humans long before instruments confirmed the impossible. By nightfall, the fjord seemed alive in memory as well as in water. Stories and reports intertwined, reality and legend merging in a tapestry of fear and wonder. The men of the patrol could feel it, the weight of centuries, the persistent eyes beneath the waves, the sense that the fjord did not merely exist, it judged it, remembered it, waited, and it would never forgive intrusion. The strange occurrences in the fjords did not exist in isolation. They echoed a motif found across seafaring history, from the icy waters of the North Atlantic to the fog-laden harbors of Scotland. Sailors had long spoken of shadows beneath the waves, creatures, guardians, or spirits, whatever they were, always patient, always watching. The Norwegian patrol's experience fit into this larger pattern, a repetition of the unknown confronting human curiosity. Records from centuries past tell of similar vanishings. Medieval logs mention fishing vessels disappearing into sudden mists, strange ripples in calm waters, oars lifted as if by unseen hands. Communities along the coast passed down these stories, each generation adding detail, each warning carrying the same weight. The deep holds memory, and it does not forgive recklessness. Even modern reports from other nations mirror these phenomena. Sonar anomalies in the fjords of Iceland, unexplained sonar contacts in the Baltic Sea. Submarines reporting massive moving forms, instruments failing without cause. Across time and geography, the motif is clear. A presence beneath the waves, unseen yet deliberate, interacting with technology and men alike. Historians note the consistency of these patterns. Where folklore, oral tradition, and modern observation converge, something in human experience registers these anomalies long before instruments can. The same sense of dread, the same inexplicable readings, recurring across generations, suggesting that these waters have always been guarded by something beyond human comprehension. The bridge between fact and legend becomes almost seamless here. The sonar blips and the whispered tales tell a single story, one of persistent awareness beneath the water. And the men who navigate these corridors are always participants, whether they understand it or not. The Norwegian patrol was now part of a lineage of witnesses entering a space where reality and myth coexist. Every culture with a deep maritime tradition carries echoes of similar motifs, from the Kraken of the North Sea to the phantom ships of the Faroe Islands. The underlying theme remains: colossal, intelligent, unseen forces beneath the water. And the fjords of Norway, narrow, deep, and ancient, are the perfect stage for such encounters. Their shadows reach across time, connecting sailors past and present. Bridge stories also illustrate human fallibility. Many who have experienced these phenomena report disorientation, fear, and inexplicable loss. Instruments fail. Perception becomes unreliable. And yet the anomaly remains indifferent, observing, perhaps even testing those who trespass. The bridge is clear: what the patrol experienced is not unique, but part of a repeating pattern of maritime encounters. Folklore, history, and naval reports intersect here, creating a tapestry where each element reinforces the other. Men aboard the Norwegian ships sensed it intuitively. Echoes in the water, subtle pressures on the hull, shadows beneath the waves. They were participants in a story older than themselves, a story told by waves, cliffs, and whispered warnings. The bridge also hints at inevitability. Patterns repeat. Anomalies recur. Sonar blips, vanished buoys, strange currents. Over decades, these events appear in isolated records. Yet collectively, they tell the same tale: that the deep remembers, and those who enter it are never truly alone. A shadow waits beneath the water, patient, eternal. By the time the patrol moved further into the fjord, the crew understood they were entering a continuum of mystery. Their instruments and experience mattered little. Each anomaly they recorded, each shadow glimpsed, was part of a lineage of witnesses spanning centuries. The bridge between past and present was undeniable. Fact and folklore, fear and observation, all intertwined, leaving men aware that the fjord itself was alive with intent. As the patrol pressed deeper into the fjord, the anomalies intensified. The sonar returned a massive, undefined shape, hundreds of meters long, moving deliberately beneath the hull. Crew members froze, staring at blips that made no sense. Conflicting readings appearing, disappearing, only to return moments later. Some officers swore the shape shifted with intent, as if aware of their presence. The water itself seemed to thicken, darkening unnaturally, swallowing every reflection, every hint of light. Then came the first loss. A reconnaissance buoy carefully deployed to measure depth and currents vanished entirely. No signal, no trace, simply gone. The official log recorded it clinically. Fate unknown. But the men aboard knew the sterile words masked a terrifying truth. Something beneath the waves had taken it, or consumed it, and the fjord fell silent again. A palpable dread settled over the crew, heavier than the cold air, heavier than the steel hull surrounding them. Moments later, the currents shifted unexpectedly. The water pulsed, bending around the hull in unnatural patterns. Sonar blips raced erratically across the screens. Crewmen whispered in hushed voices. "It's following us. It knows where we are." Every shadow on the surface seemed alive. Every ripple, every reflection, a sign of unseen eyes. The fjord had become a living corridor of suspense, a place where instruments and intuition collided. Witnesses reported fleeting glimpses of vast forms beneath the waves, glimpses too brief to verify, yet impossible to dismiss. Some swore they saw shapes undulating in the dark water, twisting, shifting, deliberately avoiding detection. Conflicting accounts spread among the crew. One saw a smooth, whale-like silhouette. Another claimed jagged, angular edges. The uncertainty only deepened the tension, the unknown shaping itself around their fear. Captain Larson's log transformed into a mix of fact and observation, precise coordinates, environmental data, sonar readings, alongside cryptic notes. Crew reports shadows. Instruments fail intermittently. Impossible blips continue. Something is down there, watching, waiting. Portions of the diary were later found smudged, water stains obscuring entire sentences, entries ending mid-thought, leaving a void of unanswered questions. The crew felt the presence tangibly, a pressure against the hull, a sense of being observed, almost sentient. Some reported low hums vibrating through the steel decks, like a heartbeat. Others sensed currents pushing against the vessels, subtle yet deliberate. The fjord had become both adversary and observer, alive in a way that defied reason. Hours dragged on, yet the anomaly persisted. Repeated sonar blips, the sensation of following eyes, shadows just beneath the surface, then a sudden surge, water boiling unnaturally. The bow lifted. Crewmen were thrown off balance. Instruments went haywire. The cliffs echoed with tones that seemed impossible. Physics and fear intertwined. The patrol trapped in a corridor of the unknown. One officer claimed to see a massive form breach briefly, a dark silhouette cutting through the mist, and vanish immediately. Others saw nothing. The memory lingered. Conflicting accounts. Instruments corrupted. The truth became elusive. Some would later argue it was a creature. Others insisted imagination. Ambiguity amplified the dread. By late afternoon, the fjord returned to a deceptive calm. Yet the patrol had changed irreversibly. Whispers circulated quietly among the crew. Instruments recovered. The buoy was still gone. Sonar blips intermittent. Captain Larson's private diary recorded a final chilling entry. "We cannot measure it, nor understand it. Only fear remains, and the shadow watches still." The anomaly left no tangible trace, yet its presence was undeniable. The climax of the patrol fused fact and folklore, observation and legend. Anomalies vanished, devices conflicting testimonies, all forming a haunting crescendo, forcing the men to confront something older than maps, older than memory, something patient, intelligent, indifferent, waiting beneath the dark, cold waters of the fjord, an entity that would outlast every patrol, every vessel, every human who dared enter its realm. As night fell over the fjords, the waters regained a deceptive calm, the cliffs standing like silent sentinels under the pale moonlight. Yet beneath the surface, the darkness remained alive, patient, watching. The men of the Norwegian patrol could feel it even as they departed, an invisible presence that had observed every movement, every pulse of their instruments. No sonar or camera could capture it fully. The anomalies had left an indelible mark on those who witnessed them, Fleeting shadows, vanished buoys, distorted echoes. These were facts recorded clinically, yet they merged seamlessly with centuries of local folklore. Tales of the deep watcher of Skuggafisk, of spirits of drowned warriors rising from the cold waters. All threads converged into a single chilling narrative. The patrol returned to port instruments reading normal, the sun reflecting off calm water. Yet nothing could erase the memory of the fjord's depths. Each sailor felt the weight of being observed, the cold awareness that the water itself was alive, sentient, and unyielding. It was as if the fjord had granted them leave temporarily, a permission that could be revoked at any moment. Fishermen continued to pass down whispered warnings, stories of glowing shapes beneath the waves, sudden unexplained currents, vanished nets. These tales, once dismissed as superstition, now carried an unsettling weight, proof that the fjord remembered, and it was indifferent to human understanding. Science could measure currents' temperature and depth, but it could not measure patience, nor vigilance, nor the quiet intelligence that moved unseen beneath the waves. Questions lingered. How vast was the shadow beneath the fjord? How intelligent? How long had it waited, watching every patrol, every vessel, every human who dared to traverse its cold depths? Was it a creature, a spirit, or something else entirely, beyond comprehension? Each unanswered question amplified the awe and the dread, leaving men and observers alike to wonder. The fjord's surface remained calm, but the silence was deceptive, like a guardian waiting for the next intruder, the next patrol, the next seeker of truth. The deep watcher had not vanished. It had only receded, eternal, patient, calculating, indifferent to human curiosity, yet intimately aware of every step we take. Human curiosity persists. Despite warnings, legends, and lost instruments, we send ships, deploy sonar, log data, but in these fjords the balance between knowledge and fear is fragile. One misstep, one moment of hubris, and the waters themselves will remind us of their dominion, silently, invisibly, impossibly. As the patrol faded into history, the fjord remained, dark, deep, alive in ways humans could scarcely imagine. The shadow beneath the waves endured, waiting for the next observer, the next intruder. Each ripple, each pulse of current, a silent heartbeat, a warning, a reminder that some mysteries are eternal and some shadows are not to be chased. Legends and fact intertwined, history and observation converging. The fjord does not forgive intrusion, nor does it offer answers. Only questions, only the echo of what has been seen, and the persistent sense that beneath the calm surface something watches, waits, endures, beyond time, beyond understanding. You have just witnessed another account from Shadow Stories. If you wish to explore further, to walk the line between fact and legend, subscribe. Continue with us into the depths of mysteries that persist. But remember, some shadows do not forgive intrusion, and some waters are meant to remain untouched, forever watching, forever patient.